Insert. All right. We're live. We are live.
Live.
Hey, good morning. We're going to let this feed build on. Hopefully some folks are going to join us today. Virtual Fish Fest is underway.
Kicked off. OFFT off.
Well, we got a couple folks jumping on. Good morning.
Morning.
If as always, we get a couple of thumbs up on the audio and making sure it's good. John Cox Fishing. Good morning.
Not like John has anything else to do but sit in front of his computer all the time.
I don't know. So, yeah. Well, he's out fishing, and
He's fishing right now?
He's out.
Surely not if he got on our live that fast.
I don't know. Good morning, guys. Welcome. Somebody let me know that you can hear us. We got good audio. We're going to do the best we can. It is raining here off and on.
And we are inside of a drum.
Yeah, it can get pretty loud in here. We should get good audio, but if you see us yelling at each other, it's because we're having trouble hearing. But hey, we're doing the best we can. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Hey. Well, thank you, Teresa. Look at that, supporting us. That's awesome.
When you hear you just fine.
Splash
Her yard
mats.
just got rolled last night.
Do what?
Teresa's yard got rolled last night. The only person I've ever seen that was happy about her yard getting rolled. I was scrolling through Facebook this morning, and she was so proud of her grandchildren for rolling her yard.
Uh-oh.
And mad at her son because he didn't help. Cody didn't help, so now she's mad at Cody.
Well, do we need to bring him up here so you can give him a tongue lashing on live?
A talking to.
We'll take care of that. Don't worry. We got your back, Teresa. All right. Good morning, guys. So Michael here from Bucks Island with somebody that some of you may recognize. We got Justin Elliott with two T's.
Two T's.
Here's my public apology that I am making, and I'm going to have a stern talk with our graphics guy, and which is me.
Aren't you the graphics?
Yeah. So I have messed up with spelling his name, but you know what? As much as we've done together, I don't know that I've ever really written out your full name on anything. So
I mean, at least you didn't misspell like Angler of the Year or Matt Herons or somebody important, you know.
Hey! You are just as important right now to these folks answering questions.
Wow.
So guys, the way we're going to run this, I just want to hit, as you guys are piling on, I want to hit what we're doing here with Virtual Fish Fest. So we've got the series of some Q&A sessions, some discussions. I know Justin's full of some knowledge to drop, and we'll get things kicked off here in just a second. But I want to go back over. So we are doing the virtual door prizes. So we've got a bunch of stuff to give away. Appreciate those of you that sat here and watched Dan and I unbox a bunch of stuff the other day. It was a lot of fun. We got a lot of line to give away. I don't know if you saw the plethora of striking line to give away. That's going to be fun. So we're certainly going to pick folks out of the comments section on each of these lives today as best we can randomly. And we will pick a winner. You're going to get 5 free entries into the raffle drawing. The raffle and everything is going to occur next Monday.
Just by commenting, they get 5 free entries?
Well, comment, like, and share.
Okay.
You're going to get, one person's going to get 5 free entries.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
you're trying to give everything away.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. It's Fish Fest, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to do that. We're going to do the drawing live next Monday. Oh, I should say Monday, November the 2nd. So it's not technically next Monday. We're going all this week.
It's the next Monday.
Yes, the next Monday. And we'll be picking the big prize. There is definitely the chance to go fishing with Brian Latimer and Blatt's
taking some fishing,
and Matt Herron and Scott Canterbury and Wes Logan. That was a blast.
It was fun last year. And the most fun of that whole thing probably took place in the parking lot before it ever started. Before we ever even got the boats to the water, the most fun of that whole day happened in the parking lot. Well, between Wes and Brian. The most
Is there smack talking?
The most trash talk I've heard in a parking lot in a long time.
Well, I guess they just had it out officially this
just
past
met
week.
That morning.
Yeah, that was well, I know Wes came in and basically said as long as I beat Matt and Scott.
Yeah, he didn't care.
He didn't care, and of course he ended up crushing everyone
and had no remorse for whipping Brian on his own show.
Yeah, he was throwing fish out at lunch
in a barred boat.
Yeah,
and was asking people if they wanted to borrow a fish at lunch. He was willing to give fish away at lunch.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to doing that again. We'll be picking a winner for that, and then we've got a bunch of other stuff to give away. But so if you want one free entry at any point, you can go over to our website bucksisland.com. You can scroll down, hit the shop tackle, or you can just go straight to shopbucksisland.com, and I've got a sign-up form there for the email list. That's going to get you one free entry into the raffle, and then that'll get you on the list. If you want to purchase online, we're going to do a daily discount code that you're going to receive. So today's discount code is REELS, because if you're shopping with us online, all the reels in line are 10% off out of the store, and you're going to receive for every $10 worth of tackle you buy, you're also receiving an entry into the raffle.
So every $10 gets you an entry, and it's 10% off reels in line?
Yes.
Gotcha.
And same thing, if you come in the store, all the same deal. So if you are local and you want to come join us, we're going to be open. We're open till noon today, normal hours, all that kind of good stuff. All right.
John has a question.
John has a question. Where are you seeing John's question?
That's it.
Is pro staff eligible?
If I'm not, you're not.
Yes. You win the chance to fish with yourself next Thursday, John Cox.
Yes.
And hang out with me. And
lunch will be provided when he wins that free trip with himself.
Yes.
By him.
Yes, and all of his travel expenses will be covered by John Cox Plumbing.
Or John Cox Realty.
All right. So now the rain picked up, so we'll see. Hopefully the audio will hold in, guys.
We got a few minutes so we can dial for a minute.
You looking at the radar? All right.
The radar. I will look at the radar.
All right, so I'm going to bring this up. So start dropping those comments. We're going to talk rigging. We're going to talk electronics. For those of you genuinely, if you don't know who this guy is, I don't know. We're good. Yeah, it's looking awesome.
Y'all see that? That's a lot of green.
Well, we roll with the punches. It's 2020, man. It's the way it's got to be.
Maybe the rain will wash the corona out.
All right. So for those of you guys that don't know who Justin is, he has been the rigger here at Bucks Island for how many years?
8 years.
8. So 8 years. And I'm sure countless other boats that you have messed with in your life. But he has been here, had a great opportunity recently, and has shifted gears, I guess you would say, in life. But still an angler at heart, still loves to play with boats. So he's coming back as part of our pro staff, and something with Skeeter.
Yeah, I've accepted a spot on the Skeeter demo team.
All right.
So I'll be at Elite Series tournaments next year if the corona allows it. Demo days for dealers. I'll be here with y'all at your demo days, open houses, all that kind of stuff. So was presented the opportunity by Skeeter, and I couldn't turn it down.
Yeah.
Could not turn it down.
So you got an FXR on order then?
I do. I have an FXR on order. Will be available for sale at the end of the summer. Probably going to be a little different than any FXR that's out right now.
You having some fun with colors?
It's very simple but very loud.
Well, I'm excited to see it. If you guys don't know, he has been responsible for a lot of the color schemes that have been around Bucks the last few years. Colored a lot of Falcons. Had some fun with that.
Yeah.
So now you got to really dive in and customize a Skeeter.
It's a lot easier when you're not actually the one paying for the boat. I've colored this boat about 98 times.
All right. Well, so we're excited to have you. Thanks for coming in and spending some time.
Yep.
So what we want to talk about is electronics questions that you guys have, boat rigging questions. There's a pretty wide gambit of stuff that we can talk with you guys about. So drop the questions in there. Hummingbird, Lowrance, Garmin, Ray Marine,
Done it.
Simrad. I don't see a lot of Simrad on bass boats.
No,
but
I'm pretty fluent in everything but like a flasher.
All right.
Not real familiar with a flasher. A little bit before my time.
All right. I got one question here to get us rolling. So what causes a depth finder with transducer on bottom of the boat to quit working?
The temperature works. So I don't know what brand of depth finder you have or what unit you have, but most of the time when you see a problem like that, if it's occurring when you're on plane, then your transducer is losing its signal. The transducer is mounted too high on the back of the boat. Something of that nature. If it's doing it when you're sitting still, you could possibly have a bad connection somewhere, whether that be power, or your transducer plug could have a bad connection, or it could be corroded. There's a lot of variables there that could cause that problem, but I would always, try to see when it does it the most often. If it's when you're on plane, I guarantee it's mounted too high.
All right. We just saw we had a nitro that came in that somebody had installed their own transducer and put it way high on the transom.
Yeah. And for a side imaging transducer, it doesn't have to be in the water when you're running. But as far as the on-plane transducer, like on the back of an older boat, on the back of an aluminum boat, it needs to be in the water all the time.
All right. You have to have a cable to link two Garmin 106 Ultra to talk to each other.
So I am not familiar with the Garmin 106 independent, like directly, but with most Garmin products, you do have to have a cable. It looks just like an Ethernet cable that you use to hook up in your house. But most Garmin units do have to have a cable to communicate with each other back and forth. There are some Garmins that come with the harness coming out of the back of the power cable that you can run to each other and share simple data, waypoints and stuff like that back and forth across the network without a network cable.
All right. You see another Garmin question from D. John Cox. Can a live scope transducer be mounted to a Mega 360 shaft to help allow me to raise my motor up for shallow applications?
You could do that, John, but what you're going to lose is the flexibility, the actual true intention of a live scope to be able to turn that head of that transducer to wherever you're looking. Your 360 is going to be fixed, so wherever you mount the transducer on the 360 mount, it's going to be looking straight that way all the time. So you lose the functionality of the live scope.
That's a good point there. Okay. So with the live scope, have you considered any other ways that could be mounted besides just on the motor?
Yeah, so there are some companies out there. I believe it's Cornfield Crappie Gear. they make a bracket. It's actually a powered bracket that mounts independently from your trolling motor with a foot pedal that then you can direct that live scope transducer anywhere you want it without it being attached to your trolling motor at all. So I've seen a few of those. I have not played with one. It seems like a really good idea.
Well, I know you and I have talked in the kayak applications of trying to rig something up.
And there's guys that'll take like an old trolling motor and cut the head off the trolling motor, mount your live scope transducer just to the trolling motor shaft, the old trolling motor shaft, deploy it, run it with the extra foot pedal, and then you can do everything you want to, and it's independent of your regular trolling motor. A lot of the guys that have the Alteras and the Corobas do that stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, I know the live scope, relatively speaking, has not been out all that long, so time will tell.
Yeah. And, I've been running live scope for about a year now, and I agree with John. Like, when I'm at Gunnersville, that transducer does nothing but catch grass. I'm not using it at Gunnersville on the grass, so I wish there was a kind of a quick release bracket or something like that where you could slide it way up out of your way, but I hadn't figured it out yet.
All right. Well, maybe Garmin or Precision Sonar or one of the other great manufacturers out there will come up with something soon. All right. Alan said, why would my Hummingbird Helix 12 freeze up when I put my Navionics card in? When it does, I have to take the card out and unplug it. Then it will work fine without the card in.
So a lot of times, Navionics cards in particular will sort of corrupt the unit. Sometimes the unit will have trouble reading the software that's on the card or the map data that's on the card, and it'll lock them down. I have not seen this with a Lake Master card, but I'm the same way. I run a Lake Master card and a Navionics card in my Helix 12, and when I am running solely off my Navionics card, it'll freeze my unit up sometimes. If I'm running off my Lake Master card, it's running fine. If I go to swap and put my Navionics card in, it will freeze it up every once in a while. But I've got a really old version of Navionics, so that could be the issue. But I like some of the stuff that's on my Navionics card, so I just keep dealing with it.
All right. Well, so we were just talking before we jumped on here, speaking of Helixes and Hummingbird products. What have you looked at so far with the Gen 4 and, that upgrade?
We get a Helix 15. I'm stoked about the Helix 15. So on my last boat, I ran Solix 12. Love the Solix platform, but found myself not using the touchscreen as much as I thought I would. So I've got a Helix on the boat I've got now. I love my Helix. Way more than I ever thought I would, but I wish I had a little bit bigger screen to be able to run a bigger split. So I think that's one of the upgrades that's going to get done to my FXR when it comes in is a Helix 15 to the console.
All right.
And then probably move my other Helix 12 to the bow.
Well, so we're already getting customers that are definitely asking us about Gen 4s, and you know better than most that, they talk about the great new products. It will be a bit before we start really getting those things in. And I think that's also going to be greatly compounded by COVID and the impact it's had on availability.
But so the supply and demand right now in the fishing industry is astronomical. Boat manufacturers can't build boats fast enough. Rod builders can't build rods fast enough. Tackle companies are running out of tackle. Everybody's taking, all their free time that they have, and they're going fishing. Well, that also expands to working on their boats, adding to their boats, all that kind of stuff. So when a company like Hummingbird rolls a new product out, there's always a lead time to it. But when you've got 50,000 people sitting at home on the computer when they got that email, just like I did, announcing the Helix 4 to Gen 4, they went and started trying to find somewhere to pre-order. So there's dealers all over the place that pre-order that unit, and they do nothing but back up the supply chain on and on. So there may be 50,000 people ahead of us who are already in line to get that unit before we even get ours on order.
Well, cool to see,
but I'm really excited about Gen 4 and Gen 3 Solix.
All right, guys. Make sure you drop us a question. I will say, even if you don't have a good question for Justin, or you don't feel like it's a good question, don't worry. I take care of asking the dumb questions. But just let us know where you're watching from. Get a comment in there, because that's how we're going to end up picking somebody for 5 free entries into the raffle. So while we got a break and some questions, all your experience working with boats, rigging boats, if you got a couple of minutes, what would you say to folks? What are some key things that people need to be thinking about with, we talk about 15-inch crafts, the size of the equipment, the amount of electronics, the power demands, all that kind of stuff. What's kind of your, if you got a couple minutes to tell somebody?
Yeah, so what I always tell people is you always want the best battery you can possibly afford with your boat. Battery is the number one thing in your boat. If you're trolling batteries, you can kind of cut down on your trolling batteries. Your trolling motor does not see the demand that your cranking battery does. So I run an Odyssey Extreme in my boat. It's one of the most expensive batteries that's not a lithium on the market. So that's a 31 series battery. It's a giant, heavy battery, but I've never had an issue out of that battery. A lot of guys like running an AGM battery, a interstate AGM or something like that. That's a great battery as well. The biggest thing is having the amps, the cold cracking amps, and the reserve time that you need to be able to maintain throughout the day. Because you got to think about it, your cranking battery starts off at 100%. It'll drop to, say, 80%. You'll run for 5 minutes. It'll get back up to 85%, but it's on a constant drop throughout the day. You're running so much equipment now that cranking battery is taking all the abuse in the boat. You're running pumps all day, live wells, depth finders on the bow and the stern. You got your phone charging. You got to crank that motor every now and again. I mean, there's a lot of draw on the cranking battery. So the biggest thing to do is upgrade the cranking battery. Because this is what's going to get you home at the end of the day. And then moving on to depth finders, the biggest problem that we've ever seen in depth finders is power supply. So if you start with a really good battery, run a really good power supply to those units, you're never going to have an issue with those units. The image quality will go up, the speed of the unit will go up, the glitchiness will come out of that unit. You won't have the bugs, the hang-ups, all the little stuff that frustrates you. Your network speed will be better, the speed in which they communicate back and forth. And on the Garmin aspect of it, if you're running a live scope, the live scope almost needs dedicated power for itself. Okay? Those units draw a ton of power. They get very hot. They're great, but they demand a lot out of a boat.
So for those of us that aren't super technically inclined,
yeah,
when you say run good power to the, what are you really physically talking about?
So most boat manufacturers are going to run a main boat harness from the battery up to the console area, run it to a fuse block of some sort, and then you're going to be allocated X number of harness drops under that console to apply accessories to it. Most of those are going to be 14 or 16 gauge wire. I run at smallest 10 gauge wire from the battery directly to my units. It gives you a lot cleaner power source. You get hardly any interference at all with that, because it's not feeding through the boat. You're not getting interference from pumps, electrical stuff, any other things that cause interference. You're running a dedicated line straight to that unit. But the way I run mine is a 10 gauge power wire, 10 gauge ground, straight off the top of the battery, through a breaker, and all the way up to the front of the boat. Tie in my console graphs and my bow graphs all into that run, and I have zero issues. One of the biggest telltale signs that you have a power supply issue is when you go to crank your boat and your graphs cut off, you have a power supply issue. You most likely don't have a battery issue, you have a supply issue. So upgrade that power wire to a 10 gauge, something like that. There's a lot of manufacturers out there actually building a harness now for that. Man, if I'd have thought about that 8 years ago when I started doing this, I wouldn't be worried about a whole lot right now. But there's a company called Clear. There's a couple of different companies making it. And they've all kind of rolled out in the past couple of months with these products. And it's just an easy way to build a harness. You just throw it in your boat, you're good to go. You can hook it up from there. And it's a very simple thing.
All right.
We got some questions, looks like.
Yep, we got some questions. And guys, I hope you can't hear it too much, but there's a deafening noise in here with the range, just the way the showroom is. But so I apologize if that's messing up some of our audio, but we're going to roll with the punches, so to speak. All right, Mike Godfrey. They make a bracket to mount a down image transducer to an Ultera.
Yes. Well, think about who makes it. There is a bracket made. Cornfield Crappie Gear makes it as well. The biggest thing you have to overcome on the Ultera is the cable management, because it stops for no one. When that cable gets in the way, it's going to cut it, it's going to pinch it, it's going to break it. But Cornfield Crappie Gear makes a bracket that bolts to the top of the shaft and the bottom of the shaft, so that transducer wire runs around the shaft of the trolling motor, gets it out of the way. You can do it. But honestly, Mike, if it was me, it was my trolling motor, I would see if I could sell that trolling motor and buy one with a built-in down engine in it. It's going to be a lot cleaner installation. It's going to be a lot more user-friendly. You're not going to worry about cable management. You're just going to have to plug it up and go on.
And for those of you that don't know what he means, the motor doesn't stop for anyone. That Ultera is one of those. It's a self-deploying.
Yes.
So you hit a button and the motor will actually put itself in the water and pull itself back out.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not going to stop because, it's not going to feel the resistance of cutting the transducer cable. It's just going to cut right through and keep going, and then you're out a couple $100 for a transducer at that point.
All right.
And I know because I've done a couple of them here.
Does Hummingbird do seminars to learn how to use electronics devices?
Yes, they do. All that stuff has kind of been put on hiatus right now. We actually did a couple seminars here in the past couple of years. But you can kind of look around, and there's a lot of places that do them as open houses. They'll do a seminar at an open house. There's a lot of guys on YouTube that do a really good job.
Who's the best guy you found that's doing Hummingbird stuff?
So there's a guy out of Missouri. He was actually here this week fishing the Bass Open. His name's Doug Barrenberg. I've met him a few times at classics and stuff like that. He's a super nice guy. He's very knowledgeable. And you can actually go to his YouTube channel and start at square one on the core units, the 1199s, 1198s, the 999s. He started with Hummingbird then and has progressed all the way up to where he's at now with Mega 360, Solixes, Helix 12, Gen 3s. He's got, at one point, he had like 9 units on his boat. Okay. So he's very knowledgeable. He's very easy to learn from. You can just sit down and just start watching video after video after video. He's a good dude. He's very simple. He walks you through it. He's just an old tractor dealer from Missouri. He's easy to listen to.
All right. Well, we so when we did or planned Fish Fest originally, Josh Payard is our Hummingbird rep / educator.
Yes.
And he does a great job. He's come in before. We were going to have him in back in March. But, it's 2020, so nothing goes as planned. We'll definitely be looking at setting some of that stuff up. I know he does some one-on-one stuff. And then, you never know, some of the Hummingbird pros, especially if they do some guiding and stuff like that, they may be open to getting on the water with you if you're willing to pay a few bucks.
Yeah,
for sure.
There's some local guys on Gunnersville that'll go out and do a sonar class with you or a sonar day with you. It's a discounted price most of the time. Don't expect to really fish. They'll get in your boat with your electronics and show you what your units are capable of. It's a great way to get a lot of information at a very quick rate. The one thing I would say with those guys is they're going to go through it really fast, kind of like if anybody's ever dealt with me on a depth finder. I'm going to blow through the steps you need to make to fix it real quick and then go on. I'm not really going to take the time to slow down and teach somebody. I'm not a teacher. So one of the things I would recommend with those guys is if you go out on the water with them is, ask them, hey, do you mind if I film this while we're doing it? Then you have your video to go back on and look at at a later date, take notes, and you can just do bullet points, menu, settings, data, whatever. You can do whatever you need to do to make yourself a cheat sheet to be able to get back through that thing. And the one thing that I always tell people about depth finder setup is just play with it. I learned everything I've learned pretty much from, I messed that up. How do I reset this? Just play with it. Find the factory reset in your unit. The only way that you can't factory reset if you change it to Portuguese or something like that. Just play with it.
Yeah.
Go out, play with sonar settings. Play with your contrast, your everything. Just play with it. Just learn it. The only way you're going to learn it is to play with it.
And don't get discouraged by it because your picture doesn't look like what you're looking at on BBC of the guy who has spent 22 hours on his setup, and he's holding the transducer off the side of the boat 2 feet from the unit in 20 feet of water. He's going to get a better picture than we are. That's all he's out there to do is get a picture.
Yeah.
But you can play with it. You can figure it out. The biggest thing is time on the water and playing with the units and not being scared to mess them up. You're not going to mess them up.
Yeah.
Just go in, factory reset them, and start over.
All right. Shane said get the C-Clear power cord.
Yep.
All right, here's a big long one. I think it'll all show up. Bradley, not a rigging question, but I found a Bass Cat Cougar FTD that I'm thinking about buying. It has all the bells and whistles. Only negative I've seen on the boat is it has 2013 Merc 250 with 550 hours. Any advice if it's worth it, or is the motor about to blow up on me?
So, Bradley, what I would do on that situation is I would ask the seller if he's willing to bring it to a dealer, whether it's us or any dealer local to that guy. Pay them their $75, $100, whatever it is, trade check. We call it a trade check. There's a lot of dealers that call it something different, but they're going to do a compression check. They're going to pull warranty history for you, tell you what's been done to the motor, if it's had a power head, whatever's happened there. And it's cheap insurance. It's going to tell you what's been done to the boat. Has it been maintained? Has it been serviced? Has it been taken care of like you expect it to be taken care of? If it's been maintained like it should have been maintained, 550 hours doesn't scare me a bit. You could probably get, another 500 hours out of that motor without any major issues. I would just get it taken to a dealer, let them check it out, get a written synopsis on the boat pretty much. Let them tell you what's working, what's not, what's going to need attention in the next few years or next few months, few weeks, whatever that may be. And then you go from there, and then you make your decision from that point forward.
All right. And I mean, that all assumes that, you do factor in 550 hours in terms of what you're actually paying for the boat.
Yeah.
Don't pay more than you should.
No.
And Riley, I'd tell you, if you want to call up here and talk to us, we're more than happy to help you kind of figure out, hey, is this thing priced way too high? I'll field some of those phone calls, and I know we get that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah, and Bradley can call up here, and we can put a book value on the boat for him if he wants.
Yeah.
So
anything we can do to help.
Yeah, we like Bradley.
All right, here's a good one.
Leroy, I'm avoiding the death finders. I don't want to know any of that stuff.
So he did correct. He's talking about the depth finder, but I don't know. I think 2020 has got its own brand of depth finder.
Yeah.
So what brand?
So I have forever been a Hummingbird guy. The thing that won me over with Hummingbird years ago was customer service. If you have a product, you're going to have an issue with it at some point. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. You can have a brand new iPhone in your pocket, and you're going to have an issue with it at some point. So Hummingbird has always taken care of me, has always taken care of all of our customers. They've won me over at customer service time and time again. When you call them and you say, hey, I've got a tournament on Saturday, it's Tuesday, can I drive my unit to Eufaula and y'all swap it for me or take a look at it? And they say, yeah, how long will it take you to get here? That's the kind of businesses I want to do business with. Hummingbird is also on the leading edge of, down imaging, side imaging, all that stuff is second to none. Everybody's stuff has stepped up exponentially in the past couple of years, but Hummingbird's customer service wins me over time and time and time again. The other thing that makes me lean towards Hummingbird is the mapping. The Lake Master mapping is there's no other mapping like it. Some of the stuff that you see on Lake Master, you don't see on other cards. There's some stuff on Lake Master. The only way you're actually going to see it is if they were to drain the lake, and then you see it when the lake's drained. So Lake Master and customer service are what pushes me towards Hummingbird 9 times out of 10.
All right. So I will. I'll go in. So John Cox Fishing that was on here. John just got his new FXR from us. New member of our pro staff. I'm gonna be real interested. He was running Lowrance on his previous Skeeter, but now he's actually gonna have. He's got Hummingbird and Garmin, and he may be because he's trying to learn new systems and new technology and all that kind of stuff. He may end up actually sticking a Lowrance on there as well. So I'm really interested to see how he adapts, an experienced angler, and what his thoughts are over time as he uses.
So I've been with a bunch of people when they transition from Lowrance to Hummingbird and Hummingbird to Lowrance.
And the one thing that I've seen in the past is Hummingbird, you push the button, it comes on, and it works. Lowrance, you're always kind of fiddling with stuff and changing stuff around. So the guys that go from Lowrance to Hummingbird normally like it a lot better because they can just touch the button, it comes on, and it works. When you go the other way, there's a little bit more learning to do.
Of course, we're definitely seeing more and more one dedicated Garmin for a live scope.
I can't say anything about it. I got one on my boat.
Wow.
It's cord.
It is. I'm glad we're not outside. All right.
I'd have called in sick.
Flash mats.
Okay.
Saltwater question. Sea Hunt, Triton Q2, wanting to add an 84-inch 36-volt trolling motor. Then Coda or Rodan. Would play with Rodan. All right. Also 36-volt lithium versus 3 12-volt batteries over the obvious weight in space.
So I'm going to go Minn Kota for sure. And then the battery collection, I'm going to build that a little bit different. So the 36-volt lithium single battery, I would stay away from because you're not going to get the amp hours you need in a saltwater situation. When you go to 3 12-volt lithiums, you're going to multiply that amp hours by 3. You're going to get a lot longer runtime out of it. And it's just going to be better all the way around. So if it was me, I would do a Minn Kota with 3 12-volt lithiums, use a company like Heidelborn, and go 3 12-volt lithiums. At that point, you're still going to have less weight, way less weight than you would have with 3 conventional lead acid batteries.
And one other thing that Israel and I have talked a lot about on Tech Tuesday, because we get a lot of these questions. You buy one 36-volt and it goes bad. Now, granted, most of them come with great warranties and all that kind of stuff, but you're stuck having to replace that whole battery. Whereas if you end up with, if you get the 3 12 volts, you're just replacing one.
So the other thing that leads me to 3 12-volt lithium is, let's say your cranking battery dies. You cannot jump your cranking motor, your boat motor off with 36 volts. So if you have 3 12-volt batteries, you can independently jump that motor off from one of your 3 batteries instead of putting 36 volts in the cranking system.
All right. I see Dan has answered some questions in there. Appreciate that. Looks like 550 hours is nothing. 1530.
And it probably only blew up because Mike forgot to put oil in it.
All right. Well, so going back to the 36 volt, that whole discussion.
Yeah.
So PowerPole's new power management system. You like it?
I love it. So I've always thought, I'll be the first one to admit, that the onboard charger for boats wasn't broke. Why do we need to fix it? But at ICAST last year, I spent a lot of time in the PowerPole booth with the engineer that developed the charge system. And in about 5 minutes, I was convinced. I've installed probably 10 or 15 of them at this point. And it's one of those things that until you need it, you don't think you need it. But as soon as you need it, you will never own a boat without it. It's got a jump switch that you literally pull your phone out of your pocket, hit jump, and it jumps it off. There's a ton of options there. It will pull power from your trolling batteries back to your cranking battery. It will charge your trolling batteries while you're on the water, running down the river. You can flip-flop your power management from your cranking battery over to the trolling batteries, and you can literally add 10% back to your trolling batteries while you're running down the river.
Huh. It's getting real up in here.
Yeah. You can be laying in bed at night with your boat on charge, and everybody's biggest fear on tournament morning is my batteries aren't charged. You can literally pull out your phone, look at your app, and it'll show you what percentage every battery's at, how long it's going to take to get your batteries to 100%, and what you need to do. it's also a good way to know, like if you're staying at a hotel, let's say somebody walks by and kicks your extension cord, unplugs it. Your battery's not going to charge in the morning, so you can look at your app before you go to sleep, know that your battery charger's unplugged, and you're good to go. It's also a space saver. The charge is about half the size of like a 460 PC Dakota charger, and I'm a fan of the PowerPole charger. It's pricey, but it does a lot of things in one package.
All right. Well, oh, looks like Dana's throwing something in there. I'll let you guys read that. Good stuff. Man.
I'm back. Sorry, I had to reply to my wife.
Hey, we don't mind that, right? Gotta keep Mama happy. Well, guys, since we're kind of getting a slowdown in questions, don't forget that's how you're going to get picked here. Where are we at? What time is it? 9:30. We got about 15 more minutes. We'll go, and then we'll pick a winner and move on to the next. We got Matt Herron, or let's see who's up next. Scott Canterbury will be up next if they get here through the thunderstorm.
He may bring his FXR.
Robbie Cook, Justin, you gonna help me rig up my depth finder once I get my new kayak?
We will definitely get your stick put in the kayak, Robbie. You fish so shallow, you don't need a depth finder anyway. You just need like a half a broom handle just to put down. It'll be a power pole and a depth finder all in one.
Well, this is a PowerPole Micro.
Yeah. You just look back and we put measurements on the stake of how deep it is.
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out a. All right, Mike Godfrey. How do you like the new Raptor power poles?
So the new shallow water anchor from Dakota. Hadn't got to play with them yet. I've looked at a bunch of the stuff, paperwork, the videos on them. They look like they're going to be. They look like they're going to be great. You know, with everything Dakota does, they do it right the first time. So I wouldn't have a doubt in my mind about that one.
I think we did one install, and I think the guys were pretty impressed. Were you still here for that? Okay, yeah. I think they were pretty impressed. We didn't get. It was a used boat. The guy got him and brought him in. I don't think they got much time to really play with them or test them out or anything like that. But build quality wise, all that kind of stuff. So time will tell. Again, with a lot of these, they get a lot of promotional out, and the product takes a little bit to really actually hit the market.
Yep.
So I know, Matt Herron being a Minn Kota guy, hoping that he's going to get some sooner rather than later. But with the elite schedule coming out,
he probably won't do it for next year.
Yeah, that would be my guess. So, all right. I'm on the earplugs before the end of the day. We had to choose.
Not October. I would stay away from October. I like fishing mainly in the spring, late spring, early summer, when the big spots really start eating topwater. When I spend most time on the water. I'm a fanatic for topwater, so that's what I want to do.
All right.
You can probably get a much more educated answer from Canterbury in about 45 minutes.
All right. How hard is it to install a PowerPole light on top?
The Russell Marine Products Light, it's a very simple install. The hardest part to that is wire management coming down to the PowerPole, making sure the wire doesn't get pinched in anything, and then getting the wire in the boat and across the stern light the other side in. But it shouldn't take you any more than 45 minutes to do it. It's a great product. Eliminates the whole stern light off the boat. One less thing for us to forget in the morning. It's a very good product. I would highly recommend it to anybody PowerPole.
All right. Good follow-up question to that. Which is better, power pole or challenge? How do you answer it? So we hate the which is better question because ultimately what we really think, and here's the salesman answer, what you like, what works for you, what you want to use out on the water, that's what we think is better for you. But what are your thoughts on the two?
But in my position now, I can really say what I think. Power pole, hands down. I like a hydraulic system much more than the cable and the pulley system in the Talon. The biggest problem I've run into with Talons is in a muddy clay bottom lake. When you run that shaft back up inside the housing, you're going to get a bunch of dirt, debris, and grime in there. You take it home, you don't wash the spikes off. Next time you go to use it, it's locked up. Power pole, I mean, the worst thing that happens with power pole is they get stuck in the mud and you got to shoot the boat down to get them up. But if it was my boat and I'm paying for it, I'm getting power pole.
So I'm, as some of you know, I'm learning about fishing. I'm not an experienced angler, but being here now for 3 years and really learning the fishing industry, I would point out, what do you see on the majority of boats? There are pluses and minuses. I know there's also a reason that I think Nakota has gone to the hydraulic system. There are plenty of guys that are probably loving their Talons.
The Talons are very popular up north, where they've got a sandy bottom or a rocky bottom where they don't have the clay like we have here. Everybody's got power poles to pick the power poles up and it be coated an inch around the shaft with mud. And when you've got a Talon that retracts back up in itself, it's going up inside the unit. And I've torn a bunch of Talons apart and cleaned them out. I would go power pole 9 times out of 10.
All right.
That's a good question for each side.
All right. So if buying a new boat, I need to ask about gauge of wiring. I want to make good decisions up front.
So the best thing to do is, most dealers are familiar with running dedicated power now. I would just ask them if the depth finders are on a dedicated circuit. So like Skeeter has moved their depth finder power to a dedicated system. They run 10 gauge from the battery all the way up to the console straight from the factory. They may have heard somebody nag about that for a long time, but they did it. So you've got 2 10 gauge drops at the console, 2 10 gauge drops at the bow. So there's plenty of power in a Skeeter to do what you want. Just make sure that if the boat that you're buying does not have dedicated power for the depth finders, that your dealer installs it. Even if you have an older boat that you put a new depth finder on, just go ahead and add dedicated power to it because it's going to make your product a lot better in the long run.
And I don't know where you are, Chuck, but if you buy a used one and you want to upgrade a bunch of stuff, then if you need help with that, by all means, give us a call. We don't only rig our new boats that we sell. We're more than happy to work on boats that you don't buy from us.
More than happy.
Hey!
I've been sitting out there in the dang club.
Come here. I got a question. I need you to answer. We're on live. Scott Canterbury, everybody.
What question you got?
If you had to choose a month for fishing Neil Henry for your best chance, what month would you choose?
May.
May? I said spring, so I wasn't far off.
April or May.
April or May.
Well, don't. Now we've lost a question for him here in the next hour.
I got one of mine answered.
All right, guys.
I got to phone a friend in a live session, didn't I? I used it anyway.
I guess so. Lux is the best in customer service, hands down. I appreciate that. You can't take credit for that anymore.
Nope. I had a long history of taking care of that and making sure that stayed true.
So Shane bought the last 20XB Avid.
Okay.
Took delivery of that. And he
That's
checked
the
it out.
one we videoed?
No. We've gotten a couple more since then. No, he decked it out, and yeah, that was.
Shane, you have a good boat. That is that's what my favorite aluminum boat to ever run. It was a blast to drive.
Okay. Talked about the Falcon Predator. All right, Chuck. Yeah, you want to talk about another nice boat? What do you think of the Predator?
It's a very nice boat. I've run one for a while. Ran a demo last year, and man, it's a good boat, hands down. Really, at this point, no boat that you can buy from a dealership like this is a bad boat.
Yeah, that definitely. What works for you is that's the most important thing.
Yeah. It's all about you getting in the boat, you figuring the boat out, figuring out which boat you think works best for you. But it's ultimately your decision. Our opinions are great, but they're not your opinion.
Well, I hope we don't get a bunch of football questions and comments all day.
That's all you're going to get with Canterbury Day.
It is Saturday, so
I just hope that somebody gets Harry and riled up.
Well, so Mark Menendez, he had a couple of good comments on the post on Instagram yesterday.
We're going to roll those over to the Harry and Split?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well, I told him if he wants to come, push buttons, I think Menendez would definitely be a good one to do it.
Menendez and Matt have a really good relationship, we'll put it that way.
Lots of history there.
Lots of history.
Fun to listen to him talk. I've enjoyed getting to know him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that we're about there. We're not going to get more questions. We might want to run for the storm shelter. Next time. This weather coming in. So here's what I'm going to try and do today that I think will be kind of fun. We're picking a winner out of the comments because I don't want to do it afterwards. How much was the weight of your PB largemouth? You got any idea?
You're talking public water or private water? Because I separate them in my mind.
Whatever you're proud of is what have you landed? What's the largest fish?
802 out of Weiss.
802. All right.
I've yet to break double digits. The one I want to break more than anything is a 6+ pound spot. I've caught almost 10 between 590 and 598 now. I've not broken 6 pounds yet.
All right. Well, so without getting too overly complicated, I'm going to scroll through our comments here, and I'm going to stop on one, and then we're going to count 8 up.
8 up?
And that's going to be the winner.
Okay.
And it can't be Bucks Island. Let's see, where's a good place to stop?
What if it lands on John Cox? Can we go up one more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think?
Right
there?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, Shane. Man, Shane, you are the winner for this live. We'll drop 5 additional tickets in the raffle to win the chance to go fishing with the guys. And we got coolers, tackle, shirts, hats, all that kind of good stuff. So, man, this has been fun, even with the rain.
With the rain.
But I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah.
Looking forward to getting back doing some video work.
Yeah.
I think we've had some fun playing with that.
Yep.
We're getting folks walking in, asking for you.
And what's going to be fun is when my boat hits the ground and you're sending me pictures of it before I ever get to see it.
Oh yeah. We'll try and get it on the internet before you get to see it. But all right, guys. Well, we are going to sign off and take a quick break, and then we'll be back here at 10 with Scott Canterbury and the Hammer. So that'll be some great discussion on, the dude knows some stuff about fishing. So when he talks about it, I listen. So I'm excited, and but we need your questions for sure. So
Lots of questions. Lots and lots of questions.
go top off that cup of coffee, or whatever else you may be drinking on a Saturday morning.
Be sipping on at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Hey guys, thank y'all so much. We will we'll see you back here in just a little bit. Thanks, man.
Thank y'all.